Hey up, I'm Guy Kesterman, the Tester Man, and this is my live ride review summary of the super distinctive Rondo Rut CF1 G2. So, Rondo, purely a gravel bike brand, but this CF1 is designed as their fast but versatile and fun carbon fibre all-rounder. So, before we get into the ride, let's have a close-up of what is a visually super distinctive bike. I mean, obviously dominated by that big squared off, I mean, it's a square at the front, but it's actually sort of triangulated head tube there. These slab-sided rectilinear forks, it really is. It's a stealth bomber, it's a cyber truck, it's Minecraft. It is definitely a very geometric machine. Then you've got this flat top tube that then kinks away at the back, and then you've got this diamond layout here where the bottom of the seat tube kinks right forwards, the down tube extends well past the bottom of the seat tube, kicks way down below the chain set there, and then comes up to the UDH dropouts at the back before it all comes back in there to what is a very, very low set seat stay arrangement. And as we've gone around the bike, you've probably seen there's a bunch of accessory mounts. You've got top tube mount, you've got twin bottle cage mounts on the down tube. What you might not have noticed is under there, you've got twin bolts for a front mech arm. Because while this bike is obviously single ring SRAM, and so are most of the build kits in the range, you can get an arm for mounting a front mech on. It's also got the cable routing for it as well. Like I say, it's a UDH rear dropout, so the universal derailleur hanger system makes getting spares nice and simple. And you've got mounts there for a fender, which are also followed up on the bottom bracket down there. Tyre clearance is 45mm, and chainring clearance is 44 teeth with a single ring, or 46/31 with a double ring. And as you can see, Rondo fit a 42 as standard, so it's already coming pretty close to those big drop chainstays there. Moving to the front, this fork is ready for mudguards if you need to fit them, but one of the two major features which allows you to switch the effective fork height between a low and high position. And as you can see at the moment, I've got it in the high position, it actually comes in the low, and that also dramatically changes trail as well. So coming around to the far side here, you can see the axles in that higher position in the flip chip here. It's something you get a lot on mountain bikes for suspension adjustments, and you are getting it on more and more forks now. You know, some of the, I mean, I remember when GTs in the early 90s used to have variable trail on their forks, but the Cervelo Aspero has it as well. But this is one of the Rondo, one of the first people to use it on gravel bikes. And in the low position, it gives a 400mm effective fork length, which is a 45mm rake, which translates to a 71-degree head angle, 73-degree seat angle, and a very, very large trail figure of 74.6mm. So although the head angle isn't particularly slack, that makes it a really stable, confident feeling front end. Then if you flip it into high, like I have here, it's a 390mm fork length, 55mm offset, 71.7-degree head angle, 73.7-degree seat angle, and then a 59.5mm trail. And to be honest, it's a relatively simple swap. You do have to undo the fork bolts at the front there for the flat mount, and then there's a bracket in there you have to remove for the high position. And as you can see, that's all hidden behind this, is it? Yeah, I guess it's an aero wing covering up the brake, and also, I guess, potentially keeps it a little bit cleaner as well, although certainly not a full fender. And with, you know, that blunt aero profile, like I say, this big gap ahead of the rear wheel, and that flat section there, flat front to the seat tube, it's not really an aero frame in any other way. And also, there's some other slightly challenging details. I mean, T47 bottom bracket is definitely a good thing, and you can see there's the cable exit for that front mech mount, which you can see again underneath here. And the fact it's got 27.2mm seat post means you've got full range of all the different kinds of seat posts you might want in there, as well as dropper posts, and this really big oversized headset with this unique Rondo stem means that all the cabling can be run internally, which, you know, kind of emphasizes this really futuristic look, even if you might not be your mechanic's friend. And then on the rear, that seat post is secured by these two tiny little grub screws on the back. Hello. And here's a boxer talking about a boxy bike. All right. And as well as this radical CNC machined Rondo stem, which definitely suits the aesthetic of the bike, you've got a Spank Vibracore drop bar. So there's only a slight flare on it. It's not a radically shaped bar, but you've got an aero top. You've got 12 degrees of flare on it and relatively short drop and reach. But the main thing is you've actually got what's basically shock absorbing foam in the middle of the bar, which is a concept they pioneered on rims and handlebars for mountain biking, and I really, really like them there. So there's definitely some softening going on in terms of that handlebar. And you've also got a really nice twin bolt Rondo own branded round seat post there as well, and then Selle Italia saddle with a nice big split up the centre to look after your plumbing. You've got Hunt's extra wide 4-season gravel wheels, or 4-season gravel X wide, because Hunt like to do things in a slightly awkward way when they're naming stuff. They're actually on Rondo's own hubs, and then you've got Vittoria Terreno dry tubeless ready graphene 2 tyres in a 700 by 38, which seems a little odd when the bike can actually take a 45. And without giving too much of a spoiler alert, I think it would benefit from a larger volume tyre, as it's got the capability to take it. And then in terms of stop and go, you've got SRAM Rival Explorer, which I think is an awesome group, and it's the Axis wireless setup as well. So really good, intuitive system. Again, means you can run an Axis dropper post if you want. The brakes are good. I really like the hood shape that SRAM introduced on this group set. And of course, you've got that clean wireless routing at the rear, which I think really makes the most of what is a really, really dramatic silhouette on this bike. And at just over 4K for this spec at the moment, and an all-in weight of 9.89 kilos with pedals on, so that's near 9.5 kilos without the pedals on for this large frame, it's both good value and reasonably lightweight for a gravel bike in this size. However, what really matters, I mean, obviously a lot of people are going to be drawn to it or repelled by it, by its distinctive looks, but what really matters from a ride review point of view is how this bike rides. So, I'm going to jump back on it and go through a summary of what to expect if you ride a Rondo Rut on some of my local trails. And the first thing I'd say is, while some of the geometry adjustments are so small, they don't really make a massive difference to how a bike rides. While the head tube angle adjustment is only 0.7, when you flip that twin-tip fork insert around, the difference in trail really does make a big difference to the steering. So, in this high mode, it's quite a keen sort of endurance road bike feel. And also, the reach is a lot shorter once you bring the tips up. Once you shorten that fork and steepen things up. However, keep it in the low, which is the version it comes in, and you've got a really relaxed and stable vibe. So even while that 71-degree head angle might not sound like kind of stable single track friendly bike, it's 2 degrees steeper than something like Santa Cruz's Stigmata, the actual feel on the trail is very, very similar. And it also extends the reach out significantly. Right, that's 418 mil, which is why Rondo fit this short stem as standard. But while as a mountain biker, you might think I'd naturally be drawn towards that longer trail and that slacker feel, And you know, I do like that kind of confidence, swagger you get from a raw, raked out geometry with a shorter stem and a longer reach. I absolutely love it on the Santa Cruz Stigmata. Doesn't really sit as well, I don't think, with this Rondo Rut. Because, well, I think you do get some respite in terms of damping from that Vibracore bar. The rest of the frame and the fork and the spec with these tubed 38mm Vittoria tyres is giving very little away in terms of forgiving comfort when things get slightly more percussive and rattly. So if you're on green gravel, you know, nice hard baked American roads, it is a really nice skimmer, and it's got that bright and lively feel that you'd hope from a relatively light bike. And even just, oh, thanks very much. Hello. How you doing? Cheers. Yeah, not so bad. And just things like, you know, just clipping in a clip out there, you can feel it's a really sharp, kind of boxy, metallic noise as you clip in, and it's got that real clarity, and it certainly feels precise in terms of handling as well. However, it is a definite handful in terms of shock absorption. This is a properly rigid ride, and the further you ride it and the rougher the trails, the more obvious that less forgiving nature becomes. And while, like I say, these Vittoria skinny tyres with tubes in on a broad rim isn't the best combination, certainly isn't the best combination for smoothness. I think even when I've stuck a fatter tyre in it, it's still been a distinctively rigid ride. Thanks very much, cheers. But then, on smoother trails, or the road, then those big tubes give it a real nice kind of skim and brightness, almost sort of titanium in feel, as long as you're not hitting the bigger chunks that really stop it in its tracks, and you can keep the speed up, then it's a real nice skimmer, even if those stealth bomber looks that'll let you slip past the radar certainly aren't going to let you slip through the wind that easily. And to be honest, even this big T47 bottom bracket shell, those drop chainstays and that cantilevered down tube, I mean, they're not soggy in terms of pedalling feel, but they don't quite transmit power in the same direct and abrupt way that they seem to respond to shocks from the ground. So while it's distinctive in looks, it's got an equally distinctive ride, which I think is a little at odds with what I've seen other reviewers suggest it is, and also Rondo's own claims about it being a very forgiving design. Because for me, it's something I mean, I love the fact. So let's go this way. Let's get some trees into the experience. I love the fact that they've had the balls to create something so distinctively different. And if you like the looks, there's literally nothing else like it out there. But some of those tiny bolts do cause concern in terms of tightening long term, and even those little twin tip fork box are only held in by little grub screws. That's a bit of a worry, especially on a bike that is quite obviously transferring more shock through the frame than the average modern gravel bike. And to be honest, I'm not that surprised that it's fairly rigid, because I get the whole suspended leaf spring concept, but those are still some big carbon tubes there, and it's actually a fairly small rear subframe that you're dealing with. Plus, that chunky upper seat cube means you're not going to get much flex from the seat post, even if it is a small diameter one. So there you go. That's Rondo's Rut CF1 summed up. A bike that is definitely distinctive, both aesthetically and dynamically, in a world of increasingly smooth and samey gravel bikes. This really stands out. So while I think it's a bike with limited appeal for a lot of riders, if you want something that's literally got some edge, both in how it looks and how it rides, then the Radical Root is worth a look. So thanks for watching. Hope it's been an interesting one. Give us a like, give us a subscribe if you haven't already. Click for notifications, and if you really like what I'm doing here on Guidecase TV, then throw us a few quid via Patreon. But make sure you do it on your desktop, not via your iPhone, because Apple are now taking 30% off all Patreon subscriptions, so everybody's getting stiffed apart from the Apple folks.